I am Kimberly HayDay Muga.
And I'm Amanda Dave.
And you are listening to the Fundraising HayDay podcast,
where we cover the how-tos of grants and fundraising.
And how to make the world a better place through philanthropy. How we can all work together. Because we got to do it.
We have to. So a special thanks to our Patreon subscribers who make this podcast possible. If you want to join this amazing community and get extra stuff like monthly playlists, a book club, and wide open mistakes were made episodes, and Kimberly's monthly musings. And let me tell you, I just dropped our May playlist. It's my 30-year high school reunion come May. So I dropped an all things 90s playlist. So it's epic. I'm just saying. I'm a little partial to the 90s, but it's anyway. So if you want to be able to get all this extra goodness and be part of our Patreon community, visit www.patreon.com/fundraisinghayday. So we're so glad you're here with us, whether this is your first episode of the Fundraising HayDay podcast, or maybe you've been listening since way back in 2018 when we dropped the entire first season all at once.
For reasons I still don't understand, but you know what? We were feeling it and we did it.
But thank you. We so love our listeners.
And if you love us right back, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can just rate us on Spotify if you'd like. You don't need to write. If you want to write, that's great. It's not just so we can feel good about ourselves, but thanks for that, but also to help other people find us. It's an important part of the algorithms of both platforms as how things are moved forward for people to try. So if you haven't done it or it's been 2018, give us a refresher review. It would be amazing.
Absolutely. So now, today on the show, we are thrilled to be joined by two guests who both work at the Tracy Family Foundation. First up, we have Callie Niederhauser, who is the Youth and Communications Program Manager, where she leads initiatives focused on building strong, resilient youth and oversees communications to amplify the foundation's voice. She has a degree in psychology and experience in healthcare, higher ed, and operations, and she's passionate about creating connection, improving processes, and strengthening communities, which I think you'll see as part of our interview that all that is true. She lives in Quincy, Illinois with her husband and 2 children. We're also joined by Sarah Rochelle, who is the Capacity Building Program Manager for the Tracy Family Foundation, where she works with organizations to strengthen operations, develop staff, and increase impact. And that's the major focus of our interview with them today, is on their capacity building program. It supports nonprofits in developing practical tools and resources to deliver stronger programs, build connections, and grow in sustainable and innovative ways. Sarah has more than 15 years of experience in the nonprofit sector, and she also lives in Quincy, Illinois with her husband and 3 daughters. So join us after this quick break from our sponsor, and we'll dive in with our conversation with Callie and Sarah. Y'all, we are so very excited to introduce our listeners to the first season 9 sponsor of the Fundraising HayDay podcast. Grant Guru is the world's largest aggregator of grants and funding, and this incredible prospect research tool has made its way all the way from Australia to the United States. It's a searchable database that is updated daily, and it is so user-friendly. We're joined today by Adrian Spencer, co-founder and director of Grant Guru, to learn more about this incredible product with a mini-series during the first 12 episodes of this season. One of the features I really appreciate that Grant Guru provides is the ability to download editable reports and summaries of some of your grant research. So I'd love for you to share with our listeners how most of your clients use that feature to share information with bosses, boards, colleagues, just how it works.
Yeah, the amount of grants out there can just be a head spin. So being able to create tailored lists and then being able to extract those into short or long form reports is really important. Grant writing is rarely a solo sport. We built the reporting function to make it easy to report to management or to a coordinating team where you have that team approach, especially where others are involved or where you have clients that you're supporting. Our reports are designed to help specifically with this. Once a list is created, which is really easy, you can just press a button, it creates a Word report, you can PDF and circulate it, or you can add commentary to it. So some people turn it into a grant strategy. And we have clients that would charge anywhere from $500 to $10,000 for these reports. Our reports have a cover page, amazing, a contents page, a summary table, and then one-page summaries of each of the programs in the list. In fact, we have 5 different report options, and you can just pick which one you want according to length, detail, and purpose. They look amazing. Everybody's so impressed when they see them, and they're just a cinch to create. And best of all, they make you look awesome.
Well, I can imagine I do a lot of prospect research for clients, and I'm thinking about how clunky it is for me to try to get information from systems into some sort of streamlined report for me to do. So if all I have to do is like push a button, I'd be so excited.
Yeah, we got rid of the painful copy and paste. Everyone hates that.
And it's also the ability to customize. I was so excited. I'm just waving my hands around if you can't see me. That it's the customizable stuff for me. That's super
fantastic.
Yeah. And these reports can be designed with whatever priority, whatever order, whatever list that you want, and you can change them at any time.
Nice.
Find out more about this fantastic new resource for grant seekers. Visit grantguru.com/US. You get access to a user-friendly search engine, email alerts, grants calendar, customizable grant reports, and so much more.
And as an added bonus, Grant Guru is providing our listeners with 20% off their subscription. So when you go to make your purchase, use the discount code HayDay963. That's HayDay 963.
Well, Callie and Sarah, welcome and thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
It's a unique and wonderful pleasure to have foundation folks on our podcast. We want to make more of a habit of this because, as Amanda said before we started recording, fully acknowledge that we do spend a lot of time going, and if they could just fix this application, not y'all, and we could do this and when they would do that. But I think one of the best things we can do is to foster communication and model how it looks when people who are grant seekers and people who work for foundations, who are all only people after all, when they all come together. So I'll just jump right in with a tried and true thing that we ask, I think, all of our guests. I can't imagine an episode where we don't do that. Shocker that most people don't grow up thinking, I know I want to be a foundation officer, or I want to be a grant writer. We've had a couple of people say, I always knew I wanted to be a fundraiser, and they're super great people. But I'm like, really though? Did you though? Was that right there with astronaut, ballerina, and veterinarian? Be that as it may. We would love to hear, and if you knew from the start that you wanted to do this work, please tell us, please. But I'd love for us to start with Callie and to just let us know how you found yourself in the working in foundation work, and you've held different roles. But if you could start us off with that, and then we'll move to Sarah.
Well, this is kind of the cheesy, I guess, Sunday school answer, but I always knew I wanted to help people. I just did not know what that looked like. In my journal, when I was about 5, I wrote that I wanted to be a nurse or a babysitter. I did quite a bit of babysitting. Nursing was not going to happen for me, but I ended up majoring in psychology. I got my degree, had some experience, and just realized that that was not something emotionally that I could do for the rest of my life. So then I started to just think that maybe a job is just a job and I don't have to love it. And I did things like I worked in higher education, I worked in healthcare, I did finance for a little bit, and just kind of all over the place. And everything I did kind of resonated, I guess, a little bit, or I wouldn't have done it. But I just didn't have that value alignment because I didn't think I could have that, right? So it was interesting because I happened upon this job posting. I had none of the qualifications or experience. I guess, some of the skills that I had built through my diverse experience that I thought could be applicable, but I had to sell that, I can make that transition work. And honestly, it's just a dream come true because I never knew a job like this existed. Had I known, maybe I would have always dreamt of it.
Sure.
Because I get to have kind of a front row seat, see all of these people who are making changes in our communities, seeing all the people doing this good work and helping others and helping them help others better. So it's just kind of like this, I guess, meta version of what I thought I would be doing.
Nice.
Oh, that's very cool.
I love that, selling those transferable skills. We talk about that a lot in terms of for grant writers and grant managers. If you're in grants, there are a lot of transferable skills to other things like fundraising, or being a development director, or moving into technical writing, or all these other things, or into management at different levels or administration, because you kind of need to know a little bit about everything. And it sounds like you had a little bit of all kinds of experiences that all glommed together, and here you are.
It didn't make sense at the time, but I guess it all came together, and I'm just happy to be here.
Nice. And so, just as an insight before we move on to Sarah's origin story, not your villain origin story, unless you have one, in which case that would be
I'm
interesting.
still working on that.
But, and correct me, please, if I get this wrong, but so Sarah came in to Callie's original job, and now Callie's in another part of the foundation. So we're sort of getting two sides of the coin here about working a foundation. So Sarah, how did you find your way into work with the Tracy Family Foundation?
Yeah, I have a similar sort of story in that I grew up knowing I wanted to help people too. I come from a family where one side of the family is all teachers, the other side is all nurses or in some form of healthcare. Neither of those roads were appealing to me. And so naturally I decided to go into broadcast media because nothing helps people more than broadcast media. So I loved it for 2 years. And about 2 years into it, I was like, yeah, this is not really achieving what I want it to. And so I stuck with sort of the communications field. And that's where I transitioned into nonprofit work, was through communications. And so I worked with the state of Missouri for a few years and then moved into full-blown 501c3 nonprofits. Once I really stepped into the world of nonprofit, I quickly realized this is the way that I'm going to be able to have some impact in the world. And so, again, entered through kind of that communications pathway and eventually worked my way up to executive director, where I've led 3 different organizations in my career path. And those last 3 interacted very heavily with the Tracy Family Foundation. So I got to know the foundation on the grantee side. And I think my perspective, along with all of the other perspectives of 501c3s in this community schools, is this foundation is incredible. It is constantly looking ahead to the challenges that they know nonprofits and schools are going to be facing. They're adapting to that, offering programs that can help address those issues. And so for many years, I would tell my husband, that's my dream job. I eventually want to get there. And so when Callie's position became available, I had only been in my last position like 4 years, and we had just started making some really incredible headway in some areas. And it was one of those, is this opportunity ever going to come along again? And, I really struggled with, is now the time? And after a lot of conversation with my husband, we're like, it doesn't hurt to try and see where it leads. And here I am, and almost a year in, and could not be happier with the opportunity that I have now to be on this side to help develop programs that help build capacity, help build the organizations to be more successful in the long run.
That's so cool. And this is not the first time that I've heard of that sort of moving to the other side of the desk from, I think it's a great fit, and I would wish it would happen more often so that there could be a deeper understanding for both parties, grant seekers and grant makers. It's really cool. Well, thanks.
A little fun fact. I just happened to be in like an overlapping friend group and received an invite to something at Sarah's house. Didn't know her very well. And we got to talking, and she was like, your job is my dream job. And I'm like, I'm scared. You're like so qualified. You could steal my job tomorrow.
No.
And that was before it was posted or, that transition plan was even in place. So then it kind of came full circle. I'm like, I do know this is her dream job. She said that before, she was put on the spot and had to say that.
Nice. Well, I have to share too, Sarah and Callie. Callie, I double majored. I have a psychology degree and a communications degree. So right there with you ladies. And like, I want to help people, but who knows how that's going to be.
And I have my undergrad is in journalism, so a form of communications.
Yeah.
Just saying. Interesting.
This is why we all get along.
Yes.
Yeah.
Coming together. It's all coming together.
Yep. So, Callie, what we'd love to talk about next is kind of a general overview of the Tracy Family Foundation, which for those of you who may not have heard of it before, it's located kind of in the Quincy, Illinois area. But we'd love to hear more specifically about the area you're serving, the mission of your foundation, and just why you exist in the first place.
Yes, absolutely. It's kind of the all-American success story, if you will. So it's a really fun story to hear and just to see how we came about. We are located in Mount Sterling, started in Mount Sterling, Illinois. Most of us staff members, we live in Quincy, Illinois, which is about 40 minutes away. We are fully funded by Dot Foods. And Dot Foods is the nation's largest food redistributor. And that company was started in 1960 by Robert and Dorothy Tracy in Mount Sterling. And they started it out of the back of a little red station wagon, originally selling dairy products and trying to solve an issue in the market. They took a huge risk. They had 12 children and they're entrepreneurs and, just a huge family with 12 children. And those 12 children decided in 1997 to start the Tracy Family Foundation as a way to honor their parents' legacy and generosity and to make sure that was carried out through all generations of the Tracy family, which is now over 160 members.
Wow.
Yes. So it's a really neat success story. There's a book about it. I am hoping someday there's a movie about it. I just love the story. But we're place-based, so we mainly serve 10 counties in West Central Illinois. Mm-hmm. So our region, and we serve those in our main focus areas, which are education, youth, families, mental health, and then anything economic development in Brown County, where Dot Foods headquarters is still located. Mm-hmm. Now we do grant funding outside of this region, and that is because the family has grant programs for all generations to be able to give within the communities where they live. So you do see pockets of our funding in Denver, Tampa, St. Louis, New York, where Tracy family members are located.
That makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah.
I'm still stuck on the 12 children. I just can't even.
Yeah, I was just like, that's a lot. That's entrepreneurial and in like another meaning of, that is a lot.
Yes. Talk about taking a risk, trying something new, persevering. And I have 2 children and we have some really rough days. And I just always think I need to channel my inner Dorothy because she figured it out. And they're all amazing people.
Yeah.
That's something.
Well, and it's really nice. It's nice because as someone I spend a lot of my time doing grant research. And like, if you are fortunate enough to be located in a major city, like if you're in Atlanta, if you're in Chicago, St. Louis, those areas, it tends to be very easy to find funders because there's so many. But when you're in more rural areas, which a lot of Illinois, outside of the Chicago area, mm-hmm. Illinois has a few decent sized cities, but nothing like a major metropolitan. And so the fact that y'all are located and serve where you are is such a blessing for that area. So
yes, it's awesome. It's a great place to work. It's a great mission to be part of. The mission is to help communities thrive and families flourish in our region. Mm-hmm. And what focus areas we don't cover, a lot of that Dot covers through their charitable programs. There's 2 different arms. They have Dot Charitable and the Tracy Family Foundation. Yeah. Very generous family. And as the company grows, and they continue to. We're lucky enough that means our grant making grows.
Yeah.
Also like how they make sure that family members in other parts of the country are a part of this. It's like it's more than we're doing this great thing here. It's like wherever you are, this is a part of your responsibility as being a part of this family. That's a really cool legacy they're creating.
Yeah, the young ones, they get to go and do a little site visit at a nonprofit in their area and give a small grant. And then the adults, they get to invite an organization to apply for $15,000 annually for each adult. It's just a really great program that really is being intentional about instilling that legacy of generosity. We're a 10-person staff, and one staff member is fully dedicated to keeping the family engaged.
Nice.
That's really a big job because there are over 160.
Yeah, it's like they have 160 accounts. Yeah.
And I can never keep that number updated because there are just babies. It seems like every month. So
seems like it's just built into the whole family, being fruitful and multiplying, because there you go.
Yes.
That's what they're doing. So a minute ago, Callie, you went through, the sort of the breadth, the different kinds of programs that fit into that mission of helping families flourish. I'd love for you to highlight the capacity building program, because that is something that, again, we were talking a little bit about this before we started recording. There are foundations that will sometimes embed that and something you could ask for, or they might have some trainings. But this is a whole focus area with a rich variety of offerings. Could you give us some insight onto how the Tracy Family Foundation came to sort of fund this focus area in the way that they're doing? Because I think it is a little different than a lot of foundations.
Yes. I think we're really lucky because the way that the foundation was started, and Jean Buckley, who's one of Artie and Dorothy's daughters, who was the president of the foundation for many years, she always had this thought that we don't need to just give money for programming or to help them do something, but how can we help leaders get better at the same time? How can we help grow them in their role? How can we make all of this better? So she had that foresight to think that this was going to be important work before it really gained popularity, which is awesome. There are a lot of foundations currently trying to work this into stuff they're already doing or convince their boards that it is a priority. So the fact that this is kind of embedded from the start, I know Jean worked harder than I'm saying it's embedded, but she had to sell it. We walked into a kind of a well-oiled machine. But the way she describes it, she just always knew that was going to be something she wanted our funding to invest in. So she met a man named Dr. Richard Bush, who was involved with Southern Illinois University and St. Louis and different nonprofit leadership work. And she talked to him, and it all started with just a few workshops a year for regional leaders. And they did that for several years. And then they had a conversation about how that might be kind of a Band-Aid. Maybe we need to go deeper with a few organizations. So she ended up having an agreement with him, hiring him as a consultant to work away with a few local organizations. And he was connected with the Kellogg organization or the Kellogg Foundation.
Yeah.
And it got us connected with a grant that we received to get together kind of a funders collaborative in our region. So we got several funding entities together and developed like a nonprofit center, which existed for several years. And then that nonprofit funders collaborative, that is still in effect today. Sarah still attends those meetings. And we're still doing great things with that group. So just in a different way. It's not a nonprofit center anymore. But that's kind of where it started. And then the program itself, when that began, it was $2,500 annually for our grantees to take advantage of capacity building projects. Still a couple of workshops, and it was a 25% match that was required.
Right.
As the foundation grew and Jean's passion continued to grow for capacity building, they hired the first program manager for the foundation, which was Terry Jenkins. He preceded me in this role, and he added a lot to it. He was an executive director. He kind of knew what the needs were, and he created several proactive projects, some of which we still have today that are very popular, like our video storytelling project that would fund videography, strategic planning, board development, a lot of these core programs he created and really helped increase the funding level as well. So we increased that to $5,000 with a 10% match, understanding that 25% could be a barrier and that consulting and training can be expensive.
Yeah.
And then that's about when I walked into it. Terry had also developed an assessment, which is really neat. We have a nonprofit roadmap assessment and a board development roadmap assessment. That is like a quiz that any leader can take or a board and get a snapshot of where they are and where they need to be and the steps to get there using our programming. So it's really, that's key because we're trying to really stay focused with what are we offering and where are we trying to move the needle. So that's helped us do that. I jumped in and helped, promote some of these programs and develop some new ones. With today's program, we now offer organizations up to $15,000 if they fit within our focus areas. So between the curated programs that we offer and their create your own projects, which Sarah can talk more about what those are, they can receive up to $15,000 annually. So we've really grown what that looks like, the different programs that we offered, and we really want our organizations to take advantage of them. And we place an emphasis on that, and our organizations know it because any grant that you apply for through the Tracy Family Foundation, there's a question on the application. We ask you, what type of capacity building have you been involved in the past year? And that's not to point out someone who's not doing it, to get marks against them, but it's honestly just raises a flag that we need to reach out and make sure they're taking advantage because we want them to.
Right.
We want all of these organizations to get better because that's how our communities get better.
Nice.
Well, and in addition to that, one of the ways that we continue to support even outside our focus areas is if you're in our 10-county region, if you don't meet or align with one of the focus areas, you are still eligible for up to $5,000 in capacity building funds each year. And so, again, I think that just speaks to the Tracy family's vision for a strong and thriving community. When all of our nonprofits are doing well and serving the needs of our communities, then our communities rise. So, while our focus remains in those focus areas, we certainly see the value in supporting all nonprofits across the region.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Well, and to take the attitude, because it's too easy, especially as a nonprofit, to look at it like, people have described it as like the Hunger Games of funding. Like, I've got to get all the funding because if I don't get the funding, my organization is not going to do well. And if you get the funding and I don't get the funding, it's a problem. When the reality is, we're all here to serve the same community, and let's you get the grant that works for you, me get the grant that works for my organization, and together, as you said, the whole community can rise. So I love that a foundation is taking that approach because that's not always the way it is.
Yeah, we love that these are not super competitive grants to write. It's a quick grant application process. We don't want there to be an additional barrier. It's not our full application. It's shortened. We want to know just the basics that we need to know. And we want you to get that training. So it also is a really good way for us to start developing a relationship with a grantee who's never received one of our larger grants before. And just help them start with an easier application, make sure that that's feasible, they're growing, and then we move on to the next level. So it's really fun. It really speaks to the relational aspect of what we do. And something I didn't mention that goes way back for capacity building is that we have grant consultations. And I don't know how many foundations do those. We actually ask our grantees to either come with a draft or come with questions. And we go, we tell them our honest feedback. We give them some suggested edits. We want to see them funded. So we want to help them get that application ready for board review or committee review. And sometimes that is a multiple meeting conversation, and we're really polishing their grant application. And I think that just speaks to the relational component as well. This isn't, we're not going to say you have one number incorrect on your budget, rejected. We see something and we start a conversation and we fix it and we work it out. So I love that about our culture.
Yeah, that's not normal. Like heck, you have, not only can you normally not speak to the funder beforehand, but even afterwards when you get denied, it's very rare you can even get feedback so you can make a better application the next round. So the fact that
it's like, unless it's state or federal grants where it's a public information thing and they have to give it to you. I was thinking, as you were saying that, I was counting how many foundations, private foundations, not government because different animal, but I'm going to say fewer than 8 that I personally have encountered. And I say I stopped counting at 20. Yeah, I'm like 30 years. I mean, let's just call it. It's just a scary number. But yeah, I would say definitely fewer than 10, maybe 7 or 8 that do that. And it's in everyone's best interest when you think about it. I mean, you can make the argument it creates more work for foundation staff, but then again, wading through poorly put together proposals is its own special hell. I say that as a grant reviewer. It's it just makes so much more sense to get in front of it instead of behind and just. Yeah.
And we don't want it to be a waste of time for our grantees to write a grant. So our interest form, I mean, we're checking along the way that this aligns with something we would fund. We didn't want someone to spend hours and hours to be denied. So if you're making it to that last polish, you're putting the finishing touches on your grant request, it's because we believe that there's a good chance you will at least partially be funded, or we wouldn't get you to that point. So I love that about what we do.
Super helpful.
Yep. Well, I'd like to circle back. So Callie, you had explained, overall your capacity building program, but Sarah, I'd love to hear from you. So you guys not only just say, hey, you can have money for capacity building, but you guys have curated some very specific programs that you think will help nonprofits. And so I would love to hear a couple of examples of some of the offerings that you guys provide.
Sure. I'll kind of go back to what Callie had talked about, a couple of things. She mentioned our nonprofit roadmap assessment. And then she also talks about the relationships that we build with our organizations that we work with. And those are 2 really important components as we are looking at building programs. And so we call it our curated programs. We take information from those assessments. We can look across the board and see where there are areas where organizations are as a whole scoring lower, which then helps us identify opportunities. And also through conversations, because we have such an open dialogue with organizations, they will be very honest and tell us this is what we need right now.
Yeah.
And so I lead in with that because one of our newest programs that is actually still going on, so I don't have feedback officially yet, but is called Planned Giving Made Simple. So often we hear, it's such a big project, I don't know where to start. What am I supposed to do first? And I felt that as a leader too. And so upon coming in, I even maybe said it in my interview, that's one of the first programs we're going to get going. And so I reached out to a variety of consultants across the country, knowing that because of my own searching, we might have had a couple resources here, but I felt we needed to expand our search area. And so I came across Liz Kahn, who's based in the Boston area, who does this work. And with her, we created a program that the format is they have 4 virtual sort of learning sessions that they do as a group. Those are about an hour to an hour and a half, depending on what the topics are that day. And then they also get 2 one-on-one sessions with Liz, which allows them to really dig into the specifics of their organization and the work that they're doing and how to take that next best appropriate step. And so we've wrapped up the 4 virtual sessions and they're still finalizing on their one-on-ones, but in preliminary conversations with the participants, it has been so encouraging to hear that through this program, they've found little steps just to get started while they keep building this program. Something as easy as putting a line in your signature for your email to say, did you know and directing them to a small section on their website. They're like, I didn't know you could start so small and build and build and build. And so I can't wait till that program wraps up to get the full response survey feedback back from those participants. But that's just an example of one of the ways that we've talked with our people and learned what the needs are, and then have been given the green light from leadership to, okay, now go find it and build it to meet the needs of our grant partners. So that's been really exciting to be a part of.
Nice.
One of the other programs that's been around for a few years, but I think is unique, is we call it Boost Year-End Fundraising. So we offer a variety of fundraising programs, but this one is very specific to organizations who are hoping to host a year-end campaign. And so we've had this for 2-3 years now. And I was reading back through the feedback from our post-survey or post-assessment surveys, and I was looking specifically at the one that would have just wrapped at the beginning of this year, and found it so interesting. So there were 7 organizations that participated. All 7 of them decided to go ahead with a year-end campaign, which isn't always the case and doesn't necessarily have to be, but certainly that's the intention. One of them, it was their first ever year-end campaign, and they brought in $52,000.
Wow.
And so to see results like that, because people are taking the time to invest in learning, and they are gathering and gaining tools and better understanding of how to create these successful campaigns. That's the whole goal of capacity building within our organization. We want to make sure that people and organizations have the tools that they need to be successful, because the more that they can grow on their own, the further then our funding is able to go to continue to increase and spread their impact. So those were just 2 of the programs that come to mind. Certainly, we have so many others. Strategic planning, one of our longest running programs. I think it goes without saying that is one of the most foundational things you can do as an organization, is to put a plan in place. And while it's not always easy to track the ROI on that, I think you see the benefit of it in absolutely everything you do as an organization. And so that's one that we are consistently promoting, encouraging people to sign up for. On our grant applications, we ask if they have a strategic plan. If they mark no, they're getting an email from me saying, hey, did you know we have a capacity building program for that? So it's so fun to be able to create programming, to offer programming, and then to see that programming is having a direct impact in our organizations.
Well, and I love how, clearly you guys are not siloed within your jobs, right? So the fact that if people are applying for a typical grant and they check no on that answer, then you're finding out so you can let them know this resource, and how everything just works together so beautifully for any organization to work like that is a lovely thing, because it doesn't always happen. So,
well, I think those grant consultations are a great way in which we're able to connect people with different resources within the foundation. So many times a program manager will come back and I'll get an email, I'm copied with whoever they met with, that'll say, as we talked in our consultation, we have these programs in capacity building that might help in, whatever area they were discussing. Here's Sarah, and Sarah can help answer questions and connect you to, those resources. So I think the fact that we are all aware of what everyone else within the foundation is doing helps us bridge some of those connections for our grant partners, and make sure that they are accessing the resources that are going to be the most benefit to them.
Yeah. Well, and I hope your nonprofits realize what a gem they have, because I'm just thinking about, most of my learning over the years has come from going to larger conferences, which, while helpful because you get a little bit of everything, none of them are very much of a deep dive and here's some really good takeaways specifically for you. Plus, you're paying like $5,000 by the time you register. You have a flight, you have a hotel, you've got food. So for the fact that they can do this for kind of 10% of the cost, and they're getting some one-on-one, it's not just, hey, this is how you do plan giving, but let's figure out how we do it at your organization.
Yeah.
That is incredible. It's an amazing resource, which is why we wanted to have you on here. So if you're working for a foundation and are listening to this, please be taking notes. Or if you get funding from foundations that you would love them to consider programs like this, maybe you could just forward this episode on to them. Hey, here's an idea. Maybe.
And I want to add to that too, because I know that the Tracy Family Foundation has partnered with a local community college in your area, the John Wood Community College, to do free trainings for nonprofits. And I am assuming, but please feel free to debunk this, but I'm assuming that that's just open to whomever would like to come and take it. It's not grantee only or specific focus areas. But again, I think it's a great idea, and I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we are really fortunate in this area. We have multiple strong community colleges, and John Wood is an example of that. They are based in Quincy, Illinois, which is the largest community in our 10-county region. And a number of years ago, we came to find out that their workforce development center was offering a number of programs that would be beneficial to our organizations, and to your point, Kimberly, any nonprofit or government entity or even church or school can take advantage of those. And so we started a conversation with them about how we could support their programming and make it accessible to our organizations. And so essentially we came to an agreement that the foundation will provide funding for half the cost of the classes that we have on our schedule. And then that opens up half the seats for any nonprofit employee or board member who would like to attend those programs. So there's multiple courses in AI, in leadership, Excel. Microsoft Excel is a very popular one still, which I find kind of funny, and marketing. And so these are great resources. Typically, most of them are 1 or 2 sessions, so it's very condensed. So you're able to get the training and go ahead and get right to work with it. When I was in previous roles, I took advantage of a couple of the classes and was able to start a social media campaign with video based on what I had learned in these classes. So they're a really great resource that we hope more and more organizations continue to take advantage of. And we're so lucky to have a community college willing to work with us in this way and to open up half their classroom for our organizations that want to come in and learn more.
Amazing. I'm loving that. And you're just working together and expanding that access. Yeah, more foundations should be doing this, in my opinion.
And there's value in, not having for-profits and nonprofits in separate training sessions, right? So originally we were doing that. And then there was this thought, if those are kind of the same classes being repeated, and all you nonprofit folks are out there looking for good board members who are part of for-profits, or you're fundraising and you might be bumping elbows with someone who could help with that. Let's combine those and get those people in the same room, because even though what they're doing might be different, marketing for sales versus fundraising, there's just a benefit to that, and it strengthens the community as well.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Well, Sarah, I have one last question, and that is, what is the best way for people to find out about all the work being done by the Tracy Family Foundation, or if they wanted to reach out to you guys to talk about the opportunities and learn more, how can they find you guys?
Our website is going to be the best resource. So that's tracyfoundation.org. Tracy spelled Tracy, foundation.org. On there, you can look at all of our grant programming. You can look at our past awards. And then there's a page with all of our staff. You can see our smiling faces. And that'll have our contact information on there. And I know I'm going to speak for Callie and any other staff member. We would be more than happy to talk about what we do with anyone who's interested, and share, the story of the foundation and the impact that we are striving to have in West Central Illinois.
Well, on behalf of the show and Kimberly and I, we are in awe of the work that you're doing. We think it's amazing, and we're so glad we could kind of get that out maybe to some other corners of the world. And you guys are setting a great example, and we appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again to today's sponsor, Grant Guru. If you want to learn more about this incredible new tool to the grant prospect research market, visit grantguru.com/US. You'll find the link in our show notes.
And remember, they are providing a 20% off discount code on your subscription. So when you go to make your purchase, enter the code HayDay963. That's HayDay 963.
So we hope you enjoyed this whole conversation with the two wonderful people from the Tracy Family Foundation, because not only are we thrilled to have them on our podcast, we also work with them regularly. We offer grant writing training through the Tracy Family Foundation as a part of their capacity building. And we just wanted y'all to know about the great work that they're doing. And they're also entertaining. So yay, so glad that they could both join us today.
Yep. Thanks so much for joining us today and listening in. We hope you'll join us again in 2 weeks, where we are going to be joined by another guest to talk about capital campaigns. So we'll see you then.
Bye.